Recording, so here we go. So I made this already, and you can see if I press play, hopefully they should play. Sprites, come on flowers. There we go. The flowers are animating, and I have this thing called a tile map that already has colliders on it. And ooh, does it? Yes, it does. It has colliders on it. I don't know if you can see. It's very small, green. It's very hard to see. But I'll rebuild this from scratch, basically. And I have one called a background tile map. So if I turn off the platforms, boop, you can see the background is just that background made of those tiles. And the background itself is a different tile map that just has like different stuff on it. Okay, so I'm only using 2 tiles just to make it easier for you to understand. And I'm only using one of the animated sprite sheets. Cool, so I'm going to rebuild this entire level. But it won't be that long. It'll take me pretty quickly. Pretty quickly? That's that English good I am. Okay, so let me just delete that. So you remember from last week when I imported the sprite sheet, I could drag one of them into the scene. What's that? A prefab? Remember, I could drag one of them to the scene, and this will be my like flower prefab. Cool. And I could give it an animation by going Window, Animation, Animation. And I need to create an animator and an animation clip, which you all have done in Game Tools. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so you don't need to know. So I'm gonna override this one. Let's delete that. So I'm going to do an, let's say, onActive or inactive, flower underscore inactive. And do start getting the habit of doing stuff like this, where it's like thing underscore what it actually does, because it makes it a lot easier than where you have, let's say I have like 10 different things that all have an idle animation. Instead of having 10 animations all named idle, at least each one is named like, you know, flower underscore idle, book underscore idle. I don't know why a book would animate, but you know what I mean. So inactive, I'm just gonna give it one little sprite, and I can play it. I should have recorded, but that's inactive, so it's not doing anything. Cool. And then I'm gonna create a new clip, and that's how I get 2 clips. Let me just slow that down again. So just here where it says the name, click on that, create new clip, and I can make a new clip. Sorry, what was the question?
Just wondering, the sprite sheet you brought in from Photoshop,
Yar.
is that saved as an animation or saved as a PNG?
So the sprite sheet, let me open it up in Explorer to show you what it looks like. It's literally one PNG that has all 3 frames equally spaced out.
No, that's fine. No, I'd say mine is PNGs and it's thought to save to something different.
No, always PNG. So remember last week we did the stuff with like selecting it and sprite mode multiple, because there's multiple sprites in there, and then going to the sprite editor, and you need to slice them. So there's multiple sprites, but by default Unity doesn't know that. So you need to go to slice, and you can slice depending on like the one I did was cell count, because I know there's 3 cells here. So I just did like, okay, there's 3 here, 3, and I did slice, and it automatically slices into 3. And you can see when I select it, it does it by 3. If you do automatic, it will try to keep the sprite around the base, like it will try to fit the sprite around the actual sprite shape, which is not what you want. The reason why you don't want that is, say like I'm a sprite and I do this, my center is like right here. If you cut a square around me perfectly, if I do that, all of a sudden my center shifts over. So when you actually go to animate, it'll look like I'm doing that instead, which is maybe not what you want. Maybe you just want me to do that. Okay? So you do it by cell count. So I've done that. You need to hit apply, and now you have those 3 there. Awesome. And then remember, is this recording? Cool. Remember, it was going crazy fast, so you need to change the samples down. I did 10, I think, which is fine. Cool. So I have 2 animations. Inactive does nothing, just keeps playing that, and active does that. So I have 2 animations that I have, and it will be able to swap between 2 of them. Okay? If I look at the actual prefab, It automatically made an animator there. Awesome. If I double click on the animator, look, those two animations are there already. So because I was selecting it while I was recording the animations, it will record the animations directly to the animator. Okay? Coolabobs? Coolabobs. So flower inactive, if I right click, there's a thing called set as layer default state. So this will be the default. So when I press play, it will play flower inactive by default. Let's test that, and you can see it playing flower inactive. If I select the flower prefab, it is playing that flower inactive. Coolio? All right. So how to do a transition? Click on it, right click, make transition, boop. And this transition right now has no conditions. So it'll just automatically go there, and we'll see what happens. If I press play, it'll automatically play that once and then go straight to active. So now it's playing active. Okay, so just played inactive once and went straight to active. Cool. And I can go back from this one to there. Again, no conditions, so it's just going to ping pong between the two of them, which is kind of dumb. I probably don't want that. So it's just ping ponging between two. And you can see it doing it there. It's like pausing, being inactive and inactive. Cool. And that's essentially how we swap animations between stuff. I can put parameters on this. So I can make like a bool, for example. Am I active? So it will only go am I active equals true. That's the only way it'll go from inactive to active. And the same way back. Am I active equals false. So you just need to click plus here to add a parameter. And it'll automatically add one of the parameters that you have here. You can add as many parameters as you want. You can do like, you can look at floats, you can look at triggers, but for today, I'm just going to do it on bools, okay? So if the bool is true, it'll do something. Cool. So now I can test that. I don't have to use code to test it. I can just test it here. So it's going to play inactive, and it won't go to active. Let me just zoom in the camera, actually. Can I scale that? Let's just make it bigger so we can see it. Cool, so there's the animator. It's playing inactive, grand, and I can just tick this to test it. There we go, it's active. And then when I turn it off, it should go back to inactive. Cool, yeah? And so that's how you can use triggers to affect that. You can tell the trigger to tell that animator this bool is now true or false. And then the animator will use that info to respond accordingly. Okay? All right, so for now, let's leave that to the side. And we're going to go to do our tile map. Set that back to 1, 1, 1. And let me prefab this by just dragging it. Got a prefab. Cool. So now I have these two sprites in here. One is a rock and one is a sand. And I want to try and use that to make that level that I made before. So what I will do is make something called a tile map. In the hierarchy, just right click to the object. Tile map. Boop.
So,
you okay?
yeah, just didn't know it would be that easy.
Oh, right. Okay. You can rename the tile map. So I'm going to rename this, let's say, mid-ground tile map. Cool. So this is for my mid-ground. And then I can make another tile map called background tile map. Okay, so I have one that's a midground and one I have the background. Remember I said it to you a while ago that you always need foreground, midground, background? Do you guys anyone remember that? Alright, so you kind of generally need those three. So I'm only dealing with midground and background for now. So let us now go and try to make a tile map palette. So I need to paint on this. So I need to right click here, create. Where is it? Oh, I forgot. Why did I delete my original one? Oh yeah, sorry. So I have the Thomas created. I need to go to Window, 2D, Tile Palette. That's the one. Sorry. So I need to open this window because it's hidden by default. So there is a thing called a Tile Palette. Yay. And I need to create something called a Tile a new palette, a tile palette. And what a tile palette is essentially like it has all the tiles that I can use, and I'll just select the tile and I can paint with it. Okay, that's why it's called a palette. Like, you know, an artist palette with all the different colors. It's the same thing. I'm trying to make a palette of all the different tiles. Now I only have 2, so my palette will only have 2 tiles. But you can have as many tiles as you want in there. So create a new palette called, okay, create, and it'll ask you where you want to save it. Save there. So I think it should show here. Yeah, there's the OK tile palette. And then you just need to drag tile, sprite, or sprite texture assets here. That's all you need to do. So I'm going to drag them in. And I'll say, yeah, okay, whatever. And there's a tile. See? Kind of same with, where's the sand one? There we go. Drag that in. And save. Done. Okay. Every unit is done by like these kind of like denoted by one of these cubes. So that's 1 unit. The only thing you may need to do is on the rocks itself. You see where it says pixels per unit on the sprite itself? My sprite is 128 by 128, and I want that sprite to cover 1 unit of area. Okay, so that's why I have to say pixels per unit 128. If I want to make that sprite cover 2 units, I just need to change this to like, what would I change it to? If like 64, right? So let me do 64, and we should see. I'm not sure if it'll update. Yeah, it will. So you see, like that is 1 unit now. It's way bigger. So that's why it's important to get your unit sizes down correctly. Cool. So if you ever drag in a sprite and you see it's like too big or too small in your tile palette, it's probably like your pixels per unit is incorrect on your sprite. Okay. So now I have these 2 palettes. Awesome. Where it says active tile map, that's the one I'm actually painting on. So right now I'm painting on the background tile map, and it automatically detects any of the tile maps that are in this tile map here. So I can do painting, so I can do like that. Oh, I need to select the tile. I can do that. Or I can just do a fill box and just go, okay. So that was the background tile map. And this can be, again, this can be any tile. So I can have loads of different background tiles and just individually select them. So like I could do that, that's in the background as well. It's just I'm reserving those for the midground tiles. All right, so I can have loads of tiles here and just select them. And these will all go into the background tile map. Now let me change to the midground tile map. And now I'm going to paint with this one. Okay, you may see a problem. Can you see the background is showing up in front of the midground one? All right, we'll deal with that in a sec. So let me just do this, finish this off, and I'm going to do some like little platforms in here which you can't see because they're hidden by the front one, which is really annoying. All right, so why are they hidden? I'm done. Midground tile map, background tile map, done. Let me stop painting for now. Let me hide the background. You can see I have the platforms there, but the background is hiding them. Have you done sorting layers? No. Okay. Essentially, yeah. Like this doesn't do it. It doesn't work. What it has to do is something called a sorting layer. All right. So let me go to my midground and let's look for sorting layer. You see that sorting layer? By default, everything is placed into a default sorting layer. So everything just goes in default. I can just fix it here. So I can just go midground, background is at 0, order and layer. And if I go midground to 1, it should appear above. Done. Okay. The problem with that though is now if I add something else in, I need to remember, okay, that midground was 1, so this has to be 2, blah, blah, blah. You can do it that way, but it's a little more convoluted. There's a better way, which is, if you click on the actual word for sorting layer, default, you can add sorting layer. And you just hit plus to add a different layer, or minus to delete them. I've added 2 sorting layers. I've added one called background and one called midground. Anything that's in the background sorting layer will always be behind whatever is in the midground sorting layer, okay? So it just allows me to put whatever I want in whatever order I want in background. It will always be behind whatever is in midground. it works the opposite of Photoshop. Whatever is below is in front of whatever is above it. It's don't get me started. But it just works opposite. Okay. So let me try that now again. So I put this back to 0. Alright, doesn't work. But let me set this to midground. And I've set that to background. So no matter what I add into background, it will always be behind midground. So now I don't need to worry about it. And I can just worry about each order within each group. It's almost like a group in Photoshop. Cool? Alright. I'd like to stop here and let you start messing around with this on your own before I begin going on to the trigger and stuff, because that's like a whole other thing. So I'd like to stop here and like you try and do the Tilemap stuff, and I'll come around and give you a hand if you need it.